Hi, welcome back to our 21 series of questions we would ask an attorney if we were hiring them to do our estate planning. Again, I'm Raymond Chandler, and this is my partner Scott Stork with Polaris Law Group, an estate planning and elder law firm out of St. Charles, Missouri. Again, we're to make sure you see what new videos come out and know when they're here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit your little bell, get the notifications, things of that nature. This week, what we're going to discuss is how do you ensure that my plan controls my property and assets, and making sure that your plan is tied to your assets. So, Scott, why is that important?
Well, so I always start this question with clients kind of talking about a treasure chest. So if you think of your estate plan as a treasure chest, think with me and imagine that you're on a beach, you're digging in the sand, you hit something hard with your shovel, you pull it up, it's a treasure chest, you break the lock off, you open it up, and there's nothing in it. What's it worth? Your estate plan's the same way. So an empty treasure chest is just a big empty box. An estate plan's the same. If an estate plan doesn't control your property, control your assets, if you haven't tied those things to it, then you just have a bunch of papers and basically something that you've created that does absolutely nothing. So we see this a lot with estate plans. Most attorneys actually don't do anything to help their clients tie their property and assets to their plan. The issue is that if you don't do that, then either you've got property and assets that are going to end up in the probate process, which everybody knows they don't want to have happen, or you have property and assets that are going to transfer to your loved ones in probably a way that you don't want because you created an estate plan for a reason. And so your estate plan can't grab onto these things just of its own volition. It doesn't have arms and legs to do that. So you actually have to tie those things to your plan properly to make sure that your plan controls them. So again, most lawyers don't help with this. At most, they'll give a set of instructions to a client that says, go and do X. Make sure that your bank account is tied to your plan. Make sure that your life insurance is tied to your plan. Make sure that your house is tied to your plan. Make sure that your car or your retirement account or anything else that you own is tied to your plan. As you might imagine, most of the time that doesn't happen. It's time consuming, it's incredibly confusing for people, and it gets put on the back burner. So even when we see really good estate plans that are put together, really good estate plans that have been written by a good attorney, if that attorney doesn't help with the funding, then all of a sudden we have the empty treasure chest syndrome.
So we approach it a different way. We want to make sure your plan works. And the way we make sure your plan works is we help you with funding as well. So we help all of our clients make sure their plan is funded. And it's not simply a piece of paper telling you how to do that. Because let's be honest, you go to physical therapy and they give you your home exercises you're supposed to do on a piece of paper. Do they really get done? Most of the time, no. So we want to make sure they're done. And so what we do is we have a funding team for our clients. And our funding team's job is to go asset by asset, piece by piece, and make sure those are put into the plan properly. And the other reason a piece of paper giving you instructions doesn't really work is every plan is different, so every funding is kind of different as well. So some things go in one way and some things go in another way, and they have to be done properly so you don't accidentally pay extra taxes or make sure your plan works and things of that nature. So our team is set up to make sure that our clients get funded fully and completely, and making sure not only that we've changed the beneficiaries, changed the ownership, something like that, but then move into verification and verifying that was done. So unfortunately, way too many times we've seen where we've sent out the instructions with our clients to let's say the life insurance company, changed the beneficiary, put it on the beneficiary change form, told them who the new beneficiary was, and then had our clients get the beneficiary designation from their life insurance to verify that it was done correctly, and it was not done or done completely wrong, or there's some weird stuff we've seen. So we want to verify that it's done correctly and make sure that we have something in your file on every single asset that you have showing that your funding was completed. But again, we don't want to stop there because, again, like we've talked about in some of our previous videos, your estate plan is an ongoing process. And so what we want to do is make sure that throughout the years, your plan maintains its funding. And so funding is a very important part of maintenance. So a lot of times, unfortunately, we'll see clients come in and families come in and say, hey, Dad had his estate plan, it was all funded, everything was great 20 years ago. So the house that they funded has now been downsized to a condo that's not in there anymore. All the cars were sold and switched and changed, and those aren't in there anymore. They switched banks, and that new bank account's not in there anymore. All sorts of assets that now are new from when the estate plan was originally funded aren't in the plan anymore. And so we want, again, during our maintenance phase, to make sure your assets are funded and maintained as well. So that's an important way that we look at funding, is that it's always an ongoing process, a process that continues throughout your life, because your assets continue throughout your life. So of course it should be looked at on a regular basis. So that's how we like to do funding. That's how we think you should do funding. It's the best way to make sure your plan works. And again, without funding, your plan is just a big empty box, and nobody needs that.
So thanks for joining us for our 21 question series of questions we would ask an estate planning attorney if we were hiring one. Our next question is going to be, if an attorney helps with funding, what do they charge to do that? And how does that work? So again, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get all of the notifications for the new videos as they come out. But I'm Scott Stork with Polaris Law Group, an estate planning and elder law firm in St. Charles, Missouri. This is my partner, Raymond Chandler, and thanks for joining us today.